The Franklin Armory F17 17 Winchester Super Mag. Let's check it out. In 2014, Franklin Armory introduced their F17, which is a 17 WSM, which is the Winchester Super Mag. This is a rimfire cartridge that goes over 3,000 feet per second. Great for hunters, great for accuracy guys, but also a really devastating round in the right application. This is the very first rimfire that's been designed in the AR-15 with a gas piston system. And so this is a very unique type rifle, but it's really accurate and it's very reliable. Now there are 5 different models of the Franklin F17. The originals were a billet upper and lower receiver, but then they began to offer forged upper and lowers, which kind of lowered the price, and very mil-spec. I mean, all the parts that you use for an AR-15 will fit in here, except for a couple of proprietary parts, obviously, for the 17 WSM, which we'll take a look at in just a minute. But this is a really fine finished rifle, very easy to handle. It does have some weight to it, but this thing is great at the bench. The AR-15 has proven to be such a versatile rifle. There's so many different calibers this rifle comes in, so many different aftermarket parts. You can configure this for different reasons. And that's one of the things we have here with the Franklin Armory F17. This is a rimfire cartridge, and yet it's going 3,000 feet per second. And the AR-15 platform is just perfect for this caliber. But they're also known for their AR-15s. They produce a number of different AR-15s, parts and components, from billet and also forged. First thing we're going to do is drop our magazine, check the chamber, and the gun is empty. Now the upper and lower receiver are 70-75 T6 aluminum. It is forged, has a really nice black anodized finish on here. Very smooth, very black. These are standard AR-15 lower receiver and upper receivers. Again, they do make models for this that are in the billet configuration. This is the VS4, and it comes with the forged upper and lower receiver. And on the other side we have the Franklin Armory and the silhouette of Benjamin Franklin logo. Now it comes with one 10-round magazine. This is a billet magazine that has been anodized. It has a metal follower as well. This is really the centerpiece for the rifle for reliability and functioning. And they went through a lot of testing and evaluation to be able to get this right. And it is, you can see, smaller because the round of the 17 WSM is shorter than your standard 223 or 5.56. From what I understand, Franklin Armory is looking to design some larger capacity magazines as well. So hopefully that'll be coming in the future. Now because this is a rimmed cartridge, loading the magazine, you just kind of slip it in, and the first few rounds are fairly easy to load. It just pushes down. Now one of the things about it, after a while it starts to bind up just a little bit. If you'll notice, there's a hole right here, and one thing a lot of guys are doing is just putting something through there and then just bringing it down. And this allows for the magazine to be loaded much easier. Especially when you get to 8, 9, 10 rounds, it starts to really get stiff. I was able to load them at the range, but this is a much better way. Now, according to Franklin Armory, they have been talking about releasing polymer magazines, which I think would be great, and it would really reduce the cost of these magazines as well. We have a 20-inch bull barrel. The finish on here is a salt bath nitride finish. Not only the barrel, but the interior of the barrel and also the chamber. And nitride's really been proven to be an excellent material to keep corrosion down and to reduce wear. It is a 1 in 9 twist, and these barrels are actually made by E.R. Shaw Company, which is a premium barrel maker. It has an 11-degree crown here, and then it has a crown on the outside of the barrel. It's just kind of concave. So it gives it a lot of protection to keep that accuracy at its peak. The handguard is the TML-12, which is an aluminum free-float handguard. It has knurling in 2 sections, has M-LOK for M-LOK attachments that's fluted, and of course this can also be used for ventilation. It has a hard anodized 3 coating on it. Of course, that's going to give it really good durability. Included is a Picatinny rail section where you can mount your bipod, and toward the rear there's a mount to be able to put this on a tripod. They use a standard A2 rifle stock and then a standard A2 grip. But they did retain the forward assist and of course the shell deflector and the dust cover. Now the trigger is a Franklin Armory custom tuned trigger, and there is no creep in this trigger. I mean, it just breaks. The amount of take up is so small, it just gives you enough to know that the gun is going to fire. But it's a really sweet trigger. But let's check reset. I mean, super fast. I tried to check trigger pull weight with my Lyman trigger gauge, but it's such a short break that I would pull on the trigger gauge after the trigger fired, so I really couldn't get an accurate reading. But I'll tell you guys, I mean, just from my experience, 4.5 pounds is right on the money. Now, one of the really unique features of this rifle is that it's the world's first rimfire gas piston design. And we're going to break it open. I'm going to show you, but they worked in conjunction with Osprey Defense to make this. And the bolt carrier group is also a custom design by Franklin Armory. Now the custom trigger, you can just kind of get a feel for it right here. There is a tensioning screw right here to be able to tighten up the fit between the upper and lower receiver, and that really also helps with accuracy. And of course right here is your buffer, and we're going to take a look at that. Now it does take a special buffer, and you can see the configuration is completely different than your standard AR. It does have a plastic cap here, and this is a spacer because of the short piston stroke. And then it has 2 shelves right here that line up. But this is, if you're taking your standard AR-15 lower and buying one of their uppers, this is one thing that you'll have to buy along with it. Now let's look at the top half and the bolt carrier group. Definitely very similar to your AR-15, but you do notice right up front that this is kind of cut short with your gas tube. And that's because this is a gas piston system. Here is the piston rod, and it's fully extended, and as you can see it just goes in. So this little short action is the piston, and again it is a short stroke action. I couldn't get to the system itself. It's underneath the handguard, and even when looking down they have it closed off. But in some of the other models that have standard handguards you would be able to see it. Here's a photo of the gas piston system. I got this off of AR-15hunter.com. They did a pretty extensive review on this on video, and I would highly recommend you check it out. We're doing a lot of varmint hunting, but this is the system that's underneath the handguard. Now the scope we were using is one of the Primary Arms, a 4x14 first focal plane scopes. This is the R-Grid. Now guys, this is just an overkill. I mean, this is made for really extended long ranges. In fact, we were shooting 1,000 yards with a 308 with this. But this was a scope I had available to put on here, and I knew it would be great for the accuracy, especially up to 14 power. And I highly recommend these scopes. The glass is excellent. I mean, these are just really great scopes for the money. So check out Primary Arms. Now the parent case for the 17 WSM is based off of the 27 caliber nail gun case. And this is used to drive nails into concrete. So a pretty solid case design. Now the round is offered in a 20 grain and a 25 grain. Winchester is the original designer, and they offer a number of different configurations. And then we have, of course, American Eagle and then Hornady. So why would you want 17 Winchester Super Magnum over 17 HMR or 22 Magnum? One of the things about these 3 rounds is they're pretty comparable in price. We're talking about average of about 25 cents per round. for the 17 WSM. Really about 20 cents for your 17 HMR, but when you get to the 22 Magnum, they're back at about 25 cents a round. That's an average, and I found that on AmmoSeek. There's a lot of different calibers, but that just gives you a general idea. Now, muzzle velocity out of the 17 WSM is 3,000 feet per second. Then we go with the 17 HMR, it's 2,530 feet per second, and then the 22 Magnum at 2,200 feet per second. Get out to 150 yards, and we're at 2,085 feet per second, 1,606 feet per second, and 1,155 feet per second. Now, as far as bullet drop goes, with the 17 WSM, you sight this in at 100 yards, and you're getting a 0.2 drop at 50, and then a 1.2 inch drop at 150 yards. With the 17 HMR, you sight it in at 50 yards for 0, and then you have a 0.3 drop at 50 yards and 3.1 inch drop at 100 yards. With the 22 Magnum, again, sighted in at 50, then at 100 yards it's a 1.3 inch drop, and then a 7 inch drop at 150, so a considerable difference. The 17 WSM is much flatter shooting. And as far as muzzle energy goes, 400 foot-pounds at the muzzle, 326 at 50, 280 foot-pounds at 100, and 232 foot-pounds at 150 yards. With your 17 HMR, it's 242 foot-pounds at the muzzle, 182 at 50, 134 foot-pounds at 100, and 97 foot-pounds at 150. With the 22 Magnum, it's 320 foot-pounds at the muzzle, 210 at 50 yards, 134 foot-pounds at 100 yards, and 89 foot-pounds at 150 yards. So again, the 17 WSM is considerably better than the other two rounds. We're using the American Eagle 20 grain, and this is the tipped varmint round. It's got a ballistic tip on the end, and this stuff just functioned flawlessly. And definitely great accuracy on these rounds. And I want to thank Federal Premium for sending the ammo. It really gave me a chance to really put this gun through its paces. Now, as far as accuracy goes, we shot first at 25 yards. This was a 3-shot group. And then again, here was a 3-shot group, and I had one little flyer. And then another 3-shot group right here. So really tight at 25 yards. Here at 50 yards, again, just a little flyer, but these three were together. Then we have here another group. Here, a good solid total group. And then number 4, a really nice group. This is at 50 yards. Now, I sighted the rifle in at 25 yards, which was my fault. So when we were shooting 100 yards, it was shooting low, which it says that it'll shoot 1.2 inches low, which is pretty much what it did. I brought it up, and this is sighted in at 100. Of course, I was over a little bit. Had one flyer here, but that is one nice tight group. This was actually 7 rounds right here. So we had 4, 1, and 1. But now these holes are tiny. And as you can see, even at 100 yards, that is less than 3/4 of an inch. And then with the flyer, it's even under an inch. So exceptional accuracy, period. Now, rimfire cartridges are notorious for being somewhat dirty. And so you'll really need to keep the bore and the chamber clean to really maintain precision accuracy. Also, the barrel can start to heat up, and you'll start to get a little bit of spread on your groups. So if that happens, it's typically because either you have a dirty bore and chamber, or the barrel is just getting heated up. Taking a rimfire firearm out to the range just takes things down a notch. You know, the low recoil, the low noise, the low muzzle blast, it just really makes a very pleasurable day at the range. You're really able to concentrate on your trigger pull, on your accuracy. You know, you're really able to get that down and just relax while you're doing it. And it's one of the things I've really enjoyed doing, whether it's 22 long rifle, 22 Magnum, 17 HMR, or definitely the 17 Winchester Super Mag, which is the king of the bunch. Being able to fire this rifle, knowing that it's going 3,000 feet per second, it really kind of changes the dynamics of shooting rimfire. The accuracy was really excellent. We started out at 25 yards, pumped it out to 50, and then to 100. It'll do much better than that, but that's what we were set up to do for the day. The primary arms 4x14 optic was just fantastic. It really allowed you to get really into that target and really to find out what the gun is, you know, sighted in and what it'll do. That's one of the things I like about getting a high magnification optic, especially if I'm just sitting at a bench. Now, for more tactical reasons, you know, you might want something a little smaller with a bigger field of view that you can kind of get up, you know, and find a target really quick with good target acquisition. But when you're sitting at the bench shooting, or even doing some varmint hunting, which is prairie dog and things like that, rabbits, especially out in a big field, being able just to sit back at the bench and kind of locate what you're aiming at, and then pulling that trigger, it's very satisfying to shoot this rifle. Reliability was spotless, no issues at all with any feeding problems. And I know that Franklin Armory took a lot of time designing this magazine so it would be reliable, and reliable it is. I really didn't do any rapid fire shooting with this rifle. I may do some a little bit later on, but this gun is not really set up for in a tactical type situation because of the heavier weight of this rifle with the bull barrel and then with the full aluminum handguard. But definitely with some of the other models that have lighter weight handguards with thinner barrels, this could really be a great self-defense round, especially if you're in states that are restricting, you know, centerfire cartridges. I know that California, because of it being rimfire, you can still have a magazine that is standard, that it detaches just like this, instead of all the buttons and of course all the different restrictions that go into these rifles. So that's definitely an option for states with a lot of restrictions. But my good friend Dietrich on the SkinnyMedic channel, he and I spent a lot of time just sitting at the bench, and we could not stop shooting this rifle. I mean, it was that much fun. We just sat there and really enjoyed taking turns with this. And I think that if you find yourself buying one of these, you'll find it's the same thing. Now, the price on the Franklin Armory F17 start out at $1549.95. So they're not inexpensive, and of course there's a lot of R&D that went into this, a lot of proprietary parts. For the VS4 model is $1704.99. And you can go to the franklinarmory.com website, check out the different models and the different features. There's a lot of options as far as stocks, handguards, and billet, upper and lower, or again, here's the forged. Now, the magazines are a little expensive. These are billet, and they're well-made metal magazines. They run $99.99. So, of course, it's definitely a custom magazine. There was a lot of design that went into these to make the 17 WSM reliable, and it does that. And there are plans for extended magazines coming up, and we'll just see when those hit the market. Now, as far as pros and cons of the rifle, very reliable. Super accurate, guys. I mean, this is a tack driver. This would be perfect for if you're out on the western plains shooting prairie dogs, or doing some kind of, you know, varmint hunting, and even target practice is just so relaxing. I mean, it's just a great round, and at 3,000 feet per second, you know, you're getting into the self-defense arena. Ammo cost is cheaper, about $12.50 for 50 rounds, which is not bad at all. So, and that's really about, you know, a half of what you would spend on, you know, good quality 5.56 or 223. Now, as far as cons go, you know, the price over $1,700 for this rifle, and down to about $1,550 for the, you know, their basic rifle. It's a little expensive, and of course, but the proprietary parts and things that go into this rifle make this a value. I mean, that's not necessarily something that's super expensive with the barrel. This isn't an inflated price. It's just the price you have to pay for these proprietary components. The magazines are definitely one of those, but at $99 a piece, that's pretty expensive. 3 magazines would be pretty high. But if you are shooting a lot of 5.56, you would save the money over time to not only pay for the rifle, but also for a couple extra magazines. So, you know, you just have to weigh it out, and also just what you're looking for. You know, if you're just wanting to go out once in a while and shoot, this is probably not the rifle that you want to get. But if you really love accuracy and you want to see what you can do, this would be a great rifle for that. You know, Franklin Armory has offered for me to buy this rifle if I wanted it, and I'm telling you guys, I'm going to buy it because I just really love this caliber. This is actually the first time I've had any experience with the Winchester Super Magnum. I fell in love with the 17 HMR, but this is in a world by itself. So I think that Franklin Armory has really done it right. Now, one thing that I will say, and I always say, or try to say, is, you know, if you're looking for something, check out all the reviews out there. Don't just take one person's word for it, especially if you're going to spend $1,700. This is not a commercial. These are definitely my findings. This is what I found when I was shooting the rifle, and the experience I had. But guys, I'm telling you, not one malfunction. And I was really kind of anticipating some because of this magazine and the caliber, and this being really one of the first, the 17 WSM AR-15s. And I think that Franklin Armory hit a home run. You can go to the franklinarmory.com website, check out the 5 different models and all the other things that Franklin Armory produces. A lot of great systems. In fact, I recently did a review on their BF3 trigger system, which is a binary trigger, just a beautiful thing. But this little F17, this makes range day fun and fantastic. And I want to thank Franklin Armory for sending this rifle for the test and evaluation. It's been a lot of fun. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. And just it was just a very WSM metal magazine. It's metal, okay, has a metal whatever that is. What is that? Follower. Now, why would you want 17 HMR? Okay, now why would you want 17 Winchester Magnum? Okay, so why would you want super? So you have an 800 foot. So you have an 800. This little Franklin F17. So if you're looking for, this is a prairie dog's worst nightmare.